Hi, I'm Kim McIntyre and I'm going to show you today how I glue up my mitered boxes. I'm dealing with a bit of a cold, so I'm even woodworking in my pajamas, but here we go. So what I've got here is a straight edge. I've got them laid out in order so that it's continuous grain. Flip them over. Now I get to tape them together. Just make sure they're nice and tight to each other. Didn't like where my tape was at. And these pieces of tape are simply here to keep things from wiggling, because the next bit of tape I add will be with tension, and I don't want everything to try shifting on me. And then while I'm thinking about it, I'll just cut an extra piece, put it off to the side. So I lay down enough tape to get good hold, help hold that in place. Then I lay out a bit of tape and I'm adding a lot of tension there. I'm letting that tension start right before the seam, so no tension, tension, no tension, up to the seam, tension. Getting good purchase or hold, tension, no tension, got that tension again, and tension. Then it can flip over as one full unit, and I'll just do a quick test fit. I've got these set up so that this was my top panel, so I just quickly was able to grab it off. I have this labeled as my top dado, and I know that this is my front piece because it's surrounded by other pieces of wood. So I know that one's my back one, the long one. Just nice and easy for these miters to just kind of roll up with that blue tape on. I've also used packaging tape. The stickiness, it might just be the brands I was buying at the office store. Just left a lot more film that took longer to clean up, so I've moved to blue tape and I've liked it a lot. So that all is working great. Get this out of the way. Got everything set up for a glue up, so just get straight into it. You can see off to the side, this is the fourth box of these that I'm making right now, so I have 3 others that have already been glued up. And then if you can see way back here, I've got another 2 boxes that I made a full year ago, and time got crunched, and so they got put off to the side, and that's fine. All the techniques I'm doing, I can pick this box up a year later and bring it back up to speed with everything I'm doing. So my hope is that I can at least move them forward one step in the build process before I get tight on this timeline that 2 of these 4 boxes are due. And it just makes it easy whenever I then have a customer who needs a tight timeline to have had boxes that are in process already, that I can be like, well, here's your choices if you're under a tight timeline. Here we go. So these are sold as acid brushes, and I cut the brush length in about in half so I have a stiffer brush. Just what I like to do. I feel like I have more control. And then I'm trying out a new product that I bought from Fast Cap. It's like a bottle nipple. So instead of dealing with the caps that always get clogged up over time and are hard to use, it just has a little slit in it that you cut to whatever size that you want the glue to come out. And I like the ease of just starting to do a glue up with this guy. You don't get quite as nice of a bead when you just put it on the wood. But, I don't know. It's just a cool thing to have in the shop. Especially when you refill these bottles so many times that old cap doesn't hang on anymore. And is all beat up from being pried off so many times. So, there's a lot of ways that you can do what's called sizing a joint. And I just have my way. Some people will water down glue and let it fully cure. And that is because a miter joint is super close to a butt joint using end grain. And so the glue adhesion is not as good because all this glue wants to soak down into the wood grain, and so you can end up starving a joint. So if you water down glue and let it cure, then not as much glue when you actually go to apply glue for the glue up will be able to soak down into the wood glue. And I just don't take time to do that extra step. But instead, I'm very slowly going to add more and more and more glue to this joint. Which just means that I'm going to slowly make sure I'm evenly coating it, which is give it time to go into the end grain, soak in, and then I'm going to come back, add more glue, slowly go through all the joints, do that, then come back, add more glue, and then finally I'm going to roll this box up. So I'm actually doing the opposite of what you see a lot of folks do during a glue up, and moving very slowly so that the wood grain has more time to just soak in some of this glue. If you watch some of my other videos, you'll have known that I've pre-finished this with shellac. Actually on this coat, or on this round, decided to go with 4 coats of shellac, and I'm just buying seal coat and mixing it 50% with denatured alcohol. And then I've done a buffing with this so it doesn't have that gloss anymore. And then, so I've pre-finished, and then my next step to also prevent this cured glue from being troublesome when I bring a chisel in there is that I've taken some paste wax that I've let cure. So just taking a spoon, scooped out a little bit of paste wax, let it dry, and then treated it like a crayon where I just really rub it right where that squeeze out's going to be. And that's also detailed in some other videos, so check that out. And it works like a charm because these boxes that have been waiting off in the wings for a solid year are going to be no problem for that glue squeeze out
that's fully cured to be just cleaned up with a light swipe of the chisel. I'm not going to end up having to really dig at it. And even when I'm working in more production mode with my tea boxes, it's usually still several days before I get into the boxes where I cut off the lids. And that's simply because I've got to make sure my boxes sit totally flat on a table. I do the miter spline, so that's gluing them in, flushing them up, and then I'm finally ready for the box to be cut off. So in best case scenario, it's usually a full 24 hours at least before I get in there, but usually it's a week or so. Because when I'm in full production mode, I'll do 10, 12 of these at a time versus just 4 of them. So all of this takes a lot longer before you complete the next step with that many boxes. Alright, last time I'm going to go through. In general, I'm trying to be pretty neat with the glue and really make sure it has a nice even coating. Occasionally I'll get a little bit up on the inside surface. I just try to not pick at it, not rub it in, not do anything, just let it cure and it'll come off easy later down the road, but not smearing it anywhere. Adding glue where it does seem little dry at places. I'm not trying to have a ton of glue in here, just nice and even coating. I'm not trying to have huge amounts of squeeze out, but I'm making sure that it's not starved at all. Alright, I like what I got, so glue stuff can go off to the side, out of the way. Roll it up. This is one of my favorite parts. So, you know, I'll just snap into place. Sometimes it needs a little help. Okay, have that pre-made piece of tape ready to go. The other nice thing about all of this tape is that I'm kind of neat when it comes to my clamps and don't like glue on them at all. So it really keeps my clamps nice and neat, and you'll see why that's a little extra important here in a second when I get out a fabric base ratcheting clamp. So a lot of people out there have an excellent way that they do this, of just using the tape and tension, and my brain just won't let me do it. I gotta put clamps on, and I like putting a lot of clamps on. So I fully support the folks out there that just use tape, but you'll see I use a ton of clamps, and that's just my way of woodworking. So this ratcheting clamp, I've just loved it. Bought it a long time ago. It's made by Wolfcraft. It's really easy to operate one-handed. I like to just get this nice and in the center. Ta-da! And then my way of finishing it out, and probably the reason I like the clamps a ton too, is that I just go and the corners are all still able to shift a fair bit, even with that clamp and the tape. And so I go until I get it looking perfect in each of the corners. So I'm intentionally trying to manipulate where these clamps are adding pressure to slide the joint around, so I can get it to look primo. And with these tee boxes I make, the look of them is the most important. I'm not having to fit this piece into some other piece. So I'm just looking for where that joint makes me super happy on how it looks. So I'm able to shove that one in. I like it, so I don't want it to slide anymore. I'll add a little pressure there. Might have to take a pressure off for a second. This process does take me a little time, so it's not speedy, but I've had really good results with it. So down here I'm loosening it so this guy can slide forward. I like it now. I want it to stop slipping. Kind of like the intensity of this little step, but I'm also super calm through it. Now I like where everybody's sitting. Actually, I'm going to give this one just a hair bit more. Call that beautiful. Now I'm going to check and make sure all the clamps have the same pressure. Voila. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to bring this forward a little bit so I have some more room for my clamps. These ones are a little longer. I've done this with lighter weight Vessi clamps. It can be done. I don't like doing it with the lighter weight ones. These bigger threads here make such a difference in the stiffer bar. This can also be done with bigger, I have a ton of the bigger Revo style clamps, but I really like the pressure point that these F style clamps can offer. And so that's consistently where now I'm trying to grow my clamp collection, is for this glue up. How I like to run this glue up. This one's going to be tricky. They're all four kind of eh. Sometimes if they're really having a hard time going where you need them to, I can even push that clamp a little bit closer to the edge. This one closer to the edge.
shift. Stop that. I can relax this one. Like I said, these ones were all pretty off. They're coming in. So you can tell I've got all my pressure off of that now. Now I'm going to go back around and see what's shifted. It's not there yet. Yep, there we go. Still happy up here, so I'm going to relax some pressure. And there it is. Bueno. It's tough. Sometimes I can get this right off, other times it takes a lot more work, but that's okay. Keep some other things a little loose while I Alright, like that. Now it's everybody's even. Great. Here's a fun way that you can minimize the footprint that your glue ups sit in. Is that these clamps are actually made to sit flat on a surface there. Hope that helps some of you out there.